Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight is the night where we are going to make a judgment on one of our favorite films of all time, Jason Goes to Hell. I'm not here alone. I have a special guest who graciously has accepted this challenge. Reanimate Her is with us. And let me just say, I've been waiting to do this. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is going to be so much fun.
It is. I'm excited. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. For you guys in the chat, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it as always. We see you guys. Just to give a blanket hello to the folks that have joined us and are continuing to jump in. We got Paula in the house. What's up, Paula? All right. RJ is here. What is up? The verdict to me is I like this movie. Ooh, okay. We're gonna see. We're gonna see how this shapes out. All right. We got Caniac. Welcome, welcome. Good to have you here. Melissa, what's up, Melissa? Good to have you here as well. Danielle, all right. Oh, this is awesome. I saw this in theaters when it released. I wish I could go back and right my wrong. Oh, that's all. Okay, we're gonna get into some fun stuff. All I can say is that I have a similar story. That's all I'm gonna say to start this off. All right. Philip, what's up, man? Good to have you. Tristan's in the house too. Gene is always here. Gene does not play around. Like if we do a live stream, Gene jumps on. Much appreciated. Larry, what's up? What's up? All right, guys. See, people they know what's going on. This is this is we haven't done a deep dive discussion on Jason Goes to Hell in a long time, but I've touched upon it many times in live streams. Friday 13th is my favorite horror franchise, so it's and we always skim the surface, you know what I'm saying? So, all right. Ryan, what's up? Byron's in the house. All right. Tawny. All right. Welcome, welcome for all you guys. Lars, Ben, of course. What's up, Ben? What's up? I know Danielle saying that username is just too cool. Reanimate her. Yes, I know,
Thank you.
right? It is very cool. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so guys, let me explain. Let me explain what we're going to be doing today, and this is going to be very interactive for you guys. For you guys that have been around on our Battle World streams or anything like that, we are going to be discussing Jason Goes to Hell, and we are also going to be giving it a grade, giving it a score, and we're going to work on several categories. Let me just pull up the categories that we're going to be working on. First of all, obviously, this film, there's a lot that we're going to be talking about, and our poor guy, Jason, yeah, there he is in his full glory. But we're going to specifically touch upon a couple of key components: the story, the characters, overall, and the kills. And that's what we're going to be doing. But we're not going to be just doing that alone. For you guys in the chat, we're going to have you guys also let us know what you think. We'll try to get to as many comments as we can. We won't be able to get to everybody. But if you do choose to send in a super chat, we'll make sure to get to your comment and or question. And you can also help to vote on the innocence or the or the guilt of Jason Goes to Hell. That's what we're doing tonight. This is going to be so much fun. So, anyway, guys, let's start this thing off. And, Kat, I'm going to just pull up our first topic, our first uh, talking point, and here it is. Okay, our opening statement. So, obviously, you're our guest here. So, how about you give us a sense of what your connection to Jason Goes to Hell is?
Just pure disgust. That's all. Pure disgust.
All right.
I don't like this chapter. It should have never been made.
Okay. Did you
Just because you're a friend of the director doesn't give you the right to create the movie, and Sean should have just said, "Oh, hell no," with it, but no.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it was interesting because at least from the stories that have been told in interviews, and there's tons of that, that is accessible to all of us, especially, like, in Crystal Lake Memories, which I think is, like,
Yes.
the definitive Friday the 13th, documentary, but, Adam Marcus, and no shade to him, he really does seem, like a nice guy and
Yeah,
he
but his
wanted
the
to.
movie sucks.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. He seemed like he's a really nice guy, but he entered into this very young, and he wanted to stand out and do something different, which I always talk about the fact that if you're going to do something in a well-worn franchise, try to do something that's fresh, And it's tough because if you have a certain lane that you're in, like the Friday franchise is,
Mhm.
there's only so far that you can go, and he obviously went outside of that lane. I mean, I think that it's a catch-22, but
Yeah.
you gotta give us what we want. And you mentioned something that was very interesting before we went live. When you first watched this film, first of all, what was the circumstance of that? Did you rent it? Did you see it in the theater? And what were you thinking when you first started off watching this?
I don't honestly remember if I seen it in theaters. Usually,
Mhm.
if I seen it in theaters, it was probably a tragedy I didn't wanna remember. I can't tell you if I rented it or seen it in theaters. However, when I first sitting there watching the movie, the first, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes of the movie, I was like, "Oh my god, this is friggin' epic."
Yeah.
This is gonna kick some ass. You got explosions, you got everything going on, right? And as soon as that was done, you went into this weird story of
Ye
worms, shenanigans, and possession.
Shen
I
Shenanigans.
just did not agree with it. I have watched it numerous times because I'm a Friday fan, and when I watch my marathons, I watch all
Mhm.
of them.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. We just did our, um, kind of our fest, our Camp Blood Fest, where we went through some of the Friday the 13th films, and obviously this was not one of them. Um, It could
Yeah.
have been though. Me and my buddy Steven, we went through, some of our favorites, but we could have done this one and had a roast. One of my great friends, Eric from Hey Internet, Eric here, is a huge champion of this film, and I will give him credit. I'm gonna say this now. I will give him credit because probably when we first kind of met each other, he's a content creator too. When we first met each other, he has a really interesting video where he talks about Jason Goes to Hell and the merit of it. And he's obviously a fan. So if you dig his style, his insight, you're sitting there like, wait a minute, am I liking Jason Goes to Hell? Like, what the hell is going on here? You know what I mean? And I will say that my frustration with it or hate, whatever you want to call it, has lessened a little bit, because there are some interesting aspects to the film, and we'll get more
Yeah.
into that as we go along. But it is an interesting film, even in the franchise, for the fans, because there are folks, and even folks here tonight, and also folks that I've seen in our streams and so forth, that they really do like this one.
Yeah. A
They
lot of
really,
people.
really
There's a
do.
lot of people who do.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, but yeah. So let me throw in my opening statement, if you will, my connection to it. And by the way, hey, we got double feature in the house. What's up? Hey, welcome, welcome. Wayne saying Jason Goes to Hell was worse than Jason X. The guy performing the autopsy biting at Jason's heart was beyond ridiculous. That was yeah. Oh, what's up, Jack? Good to see you. Good to see you. And we got Frank. What's up, Frank? All right. It's a bad movie, but it's my bad movie. Love the beginning and the Duke. The Duke is definitely the best part of the film. There's no doubt. Zed, what's up? Good to see you. And Tony said, "Yay, Deadeye Jason." I know, right? It's like, what are we doing here? Okay, all right, let me back up before I unload. Okay, I went to go see this in the theater. Okay. That's number 1. I was so excited to see a Friday the 13th film in the theater. I'll never forget it. It was summer. It was, I got my popcorn, my soda, I'm ready to rock and roll. I go into the theater. There's like 3 people in this theater, okay? And I'm like, where I'm like, where, where's everybody at? It's like, and I'm just like, okay, all right. And I'm watching this movie. The first what 9 minutes and 20 seconds is fantastic. It's great. It's giving me everything I want. I'm back at Crystal Lake. I'm having a blast. As soon as he chases um Julie McMichaels into the woods, that's when everything came to a halt. Once those lights, the floodlights, there were like 8,000 floodlights that came on, and you've got a SWAT team. You basically have special ops lighting him up. I'm telling you, I almost dropped my popcorn. It was absolute pandemonium inside of my, Friday the 13th heart. When you saw that, and I don't want to go through each little bit, but especially that, because that's really when it turned, right? Like for any other film before this, we had never seen anything like that. What were your thoughts when you saw, when, I mean, people were coming out of the sky, coming out of the ground, from inside of trees. What was your thought when you saw that?
I was like, "Oh, yeah, Jason's gonna have a good time. Because in every movie, Jason is overpowers everybody, and I'm like, "Oh, look at
Mhm.
these SWAT teams, bright lights, they got nothing on Jason." But then
Right.
when they blew him up, I was like, "Holy shit," and I kinda figured he was gonna come back as, like, Jason somehow, but not the way he did.
Yes. Yes. No, I that was exactly my thought too. I was like, "Okay, well, I guess we're gonna be having, like, a lot of fun here, and, like, totally destroy all of these would-be heroes." And even when he got blown up to smithereens, I was like, "What?" And then it kinda went through the opening credits.
Yeah.
Au Automatically, my mind was thinking, "Alright, well, he's gonna come back. He's gonna come back." And even with, like, we saw in the chat with the guy eating the heart, which, by the way, he's a really good actor. I loved him in, Rocky 5, although Rocky
Oh,
5 is
yeah,
my
he's a definitely a good actor.
Yeah, yeah. Although Rocky 5 is my least favorite of the Rocky franchise, but that's a story for another day. But I'm thinking, okay, what what are we doing here? Have you ever seen the movie The Hidden?
Yes, that movie scarred me as a child.
Okay, but you liked it, right?
Yes, because that's what it was meant to be, was like this alien parasitic creature that came down, that made sense, and it was so
Yeah,
anything going in people's mouths really,
yeah.
yeah,
It
not
gets
my
me
cup of
too.
tea.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I loved it too, right? That was a favorite movie of mine as a kid. Well, listen, Jason Goes to Hell turned into Jason is the Hidden. And and I'm like, what are we
Yeah,
doing here? It
we don't
it
even know where the
literally
parasite came from.
Well, exactly, and well, not only that, but it's like, okay, and again, I know some folks in the chat, and you guys definitely keep letting us know what you think. We're gonna get to some of your comments if we can. Travis in the house saying, "I randomly watched this a couple years ago, expecting to hate it, but ended up being my favorite of the franchise." There you go. There you go. All right, but here's the thing, like one thing about the Friday 13th films, up to this point anyways, is that it's kind of followed, um, a chronological timeline, right? Now, I'm not saying that that is like the would be all end all would be all, right? Like we know that other franchises, most notably Halloween, which I love the Halloween franchise, the timeline's all over the place. You got multiple entries, multiple this and that, remakes and all that. But up until this point, we've seen Jason get hurt. We've seen Jason I guess at the end of Manhattan is when it started, when the toxic waste turned him back into a kid or what or whatever.
Manhattan is like my second, out of all the chapters I dislike, it would be Manhattan and Jason Goes to Hell, but Jason Goes to Hell is number 1 as, my dislike.
Ooh, okay. Alright,
And hold on,
okay.
I gotta respond really quick to James Bond over there. Mrs. Voorhees never read out of the book. It's not in the canon. It is nowhere in the universe previously to this. And
Uh-huh.
in Jason Goes to Hell, the director actually borrowed props to do a nod to Sam Raimi,
Yes, that's
not
right.
needing it to be part of the Dead-Eyed Evil Dead universe.
Right, right. Yep, absolutely. Well, and that's the thing too, man. It's like once you start doing those types of things in Friday the 13th, that's when you got to be careful. Now, granted, we know at that point in the franchise they wanted to have Freddy versus Jason, and New Line and Paramount couldn't get the rights. Obviously, we saw firsthand the outcome of that, which was the
Oh,
New
yeah.
Blood, right? Part
Yeah.
7, which by the way, I think is underrated. And I really do enjoy it. The MPAA totally, attacked and muted the kills and so forth, but it's still a fun film. But once you throw in the Necronomicon and you've got magical daggers, you're you're changing the whole landscape of where we're going, for better or for worse. You know what I'm saying? Now, Evil Dead has done that, like they had a nod to Freddy and stuff
Oh,
like that.
yeah, all directors do that. A lot of
Yes.
directors do it. Carpenter does it, Craven did it.
Mhm.
They all do shit, even Adam Green's done it, Damien Leon's done it. Like, there has always
Mhm.
been this nod to movies that inspired them as well, and movies that they liked to watch as they were growing up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but here's the thing though, sometimes depending on how you do it, it really to me, I think it can work for the betterment of the film, or it could be kind of like, in other words, when I first saw that and the dagger and all of that stuff, I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, and I've said this a bunch of times on live streams, and you guys let me know what you think about this. But when you start kind of changing the backstory and the mythology of a well-known and long-standing character or franchise, you usually get yourself into some trouble because things may not line up. The whole character itself might be altered in a way that may not work as well as it originally was. Giving Jason this whole idea of the sister, and now we got this family thing going on. Like, obviously he was always connected to Pamela, but that's different because it started with that. Pamela was the killer in the original. Like,
Yeah,
w
she started it all.
she started it all. So once we get to the point where we're changing the mythology, I I don't know, I just couldn't get on board. Like, for you, when you think about the franchise leading up until then, what's your thoughts or your take on the mythology specifically, and then, of course, these changes that they made in Jason Goes to Hell?
Well, I feel in the very first one, where Pamela started it all, I honestly
Mhm.
believe in my theory that that land, the Camp Crystal Lake, that whole land has some sort of curse on it. Because even before, in the beginning of the movie of Jason, Friday the 13th, uh, Crazy Ralph is like, there's a death curse. You're all doomed. Now, we
Right.
all know that that was only one murder, that actual one slaughter of people that one time. But
Mhm.
Crazy Ralph is like, he's talking about you all are doomed. There's a death curse. And I read the books for Friday the 13th,
Mhm.
and kind of put in the theory of, I think the land was already something going on with it,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
Jason didn't actually die. However, when it leads up to that, the story stays the same. We go
Yeah.
right into number 2, right? Number
Right.
2 brings up the beginning of Alice and Pamela's fight on the beach. Then we
Mhm.
go into that, Alice dies. We go into part 3. It's still a loop that goes and threads in between them all. When Jason
Mhm.
Goes to Hell happens, they totally blew that out of the water. They went in a different direction, and I the movie could have been good,
Yeah.
if they didn't do what they did with this worm and all this other shit, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, no, we definitely will. No, and I agree. Like you had this continuous story that look, it made sense in the world of the films. Like, and I know, like we said, James was saying, when has the series made sense? Why is it hard to believe? Like to me, if we just take it
It's
for
always
what it
made sense.
is, yeah, if we, yeah, exactly. To me, if
Always
we
made
just,
sense.
yeah, if we take it for what it is, to me, it's always made sense. You know, it's about
Mhm.
this mother who was killing because of her son, and her son comes back, and blah blah blah, and you know, the land the land is cursed, and so forth. So if we just take it like that, it's always made sense. Part 8 is when, you know, it was kind of like, wait a minute, that ending was like, what? What's going on? And you know, that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
But 9 totally stepped out of the lane. You know, totally stepped out of the lane, talking about the family, and it's a Voorhees curse that can only be stopped by a family member
Yeah.
stabbing him with this dagger that came out of thin air. By the
Yeah.
way,
Same thing with Necronomicon, came out of thin air.
it's like, what are we what are we doing? All right, let me
He isn't a deadite. He is a revenant zombie. He is the definition of a revenant zombie.
yeah, absolutely. Yep, I agree. What's up, Amity? Let me jump to these guys for a second here. We got Amity in the house. We got Russell. What's going on? Horror Cat Dad saying the new blood is my favorite. Yeah, it's a good one. I think it's damn underrated. I really, really do. Let's see. Travis saying the premise of being possessed by bugs that go in your mouth, and both, even having two police station massacres, makes them very similar, but I don't see it as a copy of The Hidden like some do. No, I mean, it's not a direct copy, not at all, obviously, but that whole idea, you know, that we're jumping from body to body. I just think it was kind of The Hidden came out in 1987, and I'm just speaking my own opinion. I was a huge fan of The Hidden. It's a very underrated sci-fi action film, horror film, whatever you want to call it. But I was such a big fan of it. So when I saw this happening in Jason Goes to Hell, that's immediately, you know, and I was a kid. That was immediately what came to my mind. Was like, bro, this is like The Hidden. What? What are we doing? Yeah, but it's not an exact copy of it. Not at all.
Yeah, no, I
All
would
right.
agree with that. It's not a copy.
Yeah. I mean, it's similar, but it's, you know, it's basically that whole idea of the body hopping with the worm, but set in a Friday the 13th somewhat setting. Somewhat. I was about to say, but put in a Friday 13th movie, but even that was kind of, you know, a little bit different, which was fine. But anyways, all right. Earl, what's up, man? Saying the one thing I got confused about in this movie was, where did the sister come from?
Thin air.
Exactly.
Thin air.
Exactly.
Elias Voorhees and Pamela Voorhees had one child,
There you go. There you
but
go.
thin air makes everything happen.
Makes everything happen. I knew, and I was waiting for this. Danielle saying, "What night you make excuses for Myers all the time?" Now you know I definitely roast Michael whenever I get a chance. And all of you guys here, I mean, seriously, don't forget, just don't forget the greatest
Yeah.
the greatest mask of all time. You guys know, I'll call them out. And of course,
Yeah.
that was a huge issue with some of the things that happened in Halloween. And more specifically, this was my point that I started to say earlier. When you go back and you change mythology, you usually run into a lot of issues, and we've seen it time and time and time again, whether it's Freddy's Dead, The
Mhm.
Curse of Michael Myers, and obviously Jason Goes to Hell, and there's many more. I could go into other franchises too. Because if you change too much and it doesn't fit, it really messes up what you've already seen. Like for instance, you know, obviously we're not talking about Michael Myers tonight, but let's just do that for a second because I always have time to talk about Michael. When we saw, when we saw The Curse of Michael Myers, and you literally have people controlling Michael with magic rocks. Okay,
Thorn.
no, No, because it changes everything that you had seen before, right? It's like, okay, why? Why do that? Because now you've actually diminished the character. Michael, the way they portrayed him in that film, and I love George P. Wilbur, but the way they portrayed him in that film, he's just basically like a heavy. He's like a mob guy. Like, send me to do my next hit. And he's standing there frozen. Tommy's kicking his ass. It's like this is not what we've seen in the previous movies. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Do you know what I mean? Same thing
Yep.
with Freddy's Dead. Freddy's Dead.
Yep.
Now all of a sudden, we got these worms, and they're controlling Freddy. They gave him a job to do. That was, some of that kind of worked a little bit, but again, it changed everything so much that to me, I think it diminished the character. I really, really do.
Yeah.
So
To be honest, killers like Michael and Jason, they technically don't need a backstory. I mean,
right.
we got that right in the beginning. However, they don't need a deeper backstory. We
Mhm.
don't need to know all of that. And I kind of remind me, Jason Goes to Hell reminds me of what Halloween 5 when they introduced the Thorn, the Dark Shadow, the guy in the hat. And I'm like,
Yeah,
is
and the
this like a
boots.
did they get inspired by that? Are they copying that? I think if this
Yeah.
movie was a standalone film and not in the Friday the 13th universe, it might, and it's a big might, actually be good. Um, and if they went a different way with it, without the worm, we don't get to see Jason. We've seen Jason in the beginning of the films, and then you see it at the end, and you see him, and he's in the goddamn mirror. What is like? I don't understand that.
That's true. Yeah, I agree. That is a huge problem with it, is the way they decided, to have this pan out. And of course, we're gonna get to that specifically in a second. Let me just jump to these guys. This is I knew this would be fun. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. We got Hollywood guy coming in with a super chat. Thank you so much, man. We appreciate that. Very kind of you. Um, Saying, so Michael passes as evil to others to possess them. Jason has a worm go into people's mouths. What is going on? And did you like Slither? Oh, I loved Slither. Slither was great. It was so much fun. That's an underrated one for me as well. Yeah, I think it just takes away from what these characters are, just like, we just said. I really, really do. Um, because you don't need that. I don't need to know, and especially if we're talking about Michael, I think that's a huge part of his mythology is not knowing.
He's the
Why did
shape,
he's the shape, he's the
the boogeyman.
boogeyman, he's the evil. Why did he kill Judith? I don't know. And that's part of what's scary. I don't
Exactly.
I don't need to it doesn't need to be that he was born on a certain day and the constellations were in a certain, position and all of that. It just makes too much. But anyways, Hollywood guy, thank you so much for the super chat. We really appreciate that so much. Let's do a super chat clip for you. And we're gonna go old school because sometimes you just need someone that is going to uplift your spirits. And there's only one person I can think of that does that. And here we go.
If you don't want to be a crazy fool, you better study real hard and stay in school. Be somebody.
There we go.
Who doesn't
Awesome.
love Mr. T? Come on.
Right? I know, right? You gotta love them. Thank you so much, Hollywood guy. We appreciate the support. It helps us out. And thank you so much. Seriously. David is in the house. What's up, David? Good to see you. Let's see. James saying 9 indicates Mrs. Voorhees read the book of the dead. Love it or hate it. It's not there just because it's there to show she contributed to her son being a killing monster and superhuman. And that's fine, setting up the story for 9, but here's the thing, that changes so much of what the stories had been. Now, for some people, it adds to what the stories had been because now we have this other fantasy element, and you're also kind of tapping into Evil Dead. Now, I'm a
Mhm.
huge Evil Dead franchise fan, but for me, it didn't work because I'm like, oh, wait a minute, Evil Dead is its own thing. Jason is its own thing. So although that gives a sense of how they're trying to incorporate it into the story and trying to explain, but that's what I'm saying. We're trying to explain. We don't need to do all of that. Like it gets to be way too convoluted, in my opinion, and and again, watching these movies, I've watched these movies so many times since decades as a little boy, and it felt desperate. That's where I'm going. It felt desperate. When
Yeah.
I went into the theater and I saw this, I was like, "Okay, now we've really jumped the shark." We went to New York, and that was kinda like, "Okay, I kinda get it," but, we were right on the edge of the cliff, and now to me, we just jumped off the cliff.
But at least with New York, it kinda kept the same whole thing. He came from Camp Crystal Lake. He was
Right.
Jason Voorhees. Okay, yeah, he wasn't a handicapped, deformed young boy in that movie, which aggravated me because we all know what
Mhm.
Jason looks like.
Right.
But it still stuck with the whole thing, and you seen Jason in the whole movie.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so you know what? You just set me up really good because that's almost exactly where I'm gonna go. And by the way, what's up to our good friend Dominic in the house, who is a huge Jason Goes to Hell fan. I knew he would show up and give us some of his thoughts, which is awesome. Again, for all of you guys, whether you love the film or hate it, we definitely want to hear from you, and we're definitely going to be voting on it. So this is what we're going to do. I've got another segment that we're going to step into, and here's what it's going to be. Okay, so Kat, I'm going to ask you a question, and then just have you answer it. You guys in the chat, let us know what you think too. We can't get to everybody, but we'll try to get to as many as we can. Again, if you send in a super chat, I'll make sure to get to you. You guys will go to the front of the line like Hollywood guy. Okay, in this film, we've talked about it changes, the whole makeup of the franchise and all of that different type of stuff. What would you say is the worst aspect of Jason Goes to Hell? If you could pick one thing about the film that irritated you the most, what would that be and why?
Jason's a friggin' worm. You literally belittled my man. You made him into a nasty fucking parasite. That pissed me off the whole thing. That pissed me right off. Now they could have kept Jason and could have kept the story of him killing, but you turned him into a worm. And if it was Jason in the house with the Pamela with the Necronomicon and the dagger,
Yeah.
cool. I could have accepted that. But you turned my boy into a friggin' worm.
Okay. All right.
Mm.
Let let, let me I might have to clip that out for like a short or something. Okay. So let me talk about that, and then I'll have you ask me a question, okay? But just to talk about what you said for a second first. You're right. They turned him into into a worm, which again, listen, Jason comes back out of the grave in 6. We saw that. Tommy brought him back with the lightning bolt. Okay. Why wasn't he a worm then? That's where I'm going with it. Now, and I'm having fun with this, guys. We're having fun. So this is just a fun conversation. But we've talked a little bit about his whatever you want to call it, life and death timeline on this channel before. He's a man, he's presented as a man, a boy that grows up into, a man, a woodsman. He gets killed at the end of 4. Tommy kills him. He's dead. As far as what the films show us and what we know of the canon. 5 is Roy. That's not Jason. We know that. But Tommy brings him back in 6. He is, and thank you for that, Tommy, because you
I
you
love
killed
sex.
you, and I love 6 too, but Tommy killed hundreds of people. That's what Tommy did. Okay. He brought him back. The lightning bolt brought him back. Tom McLaughlin, who directed Jason Lives, says this. So he brought him back with the lightning bolt. And then, of
Yeah.
course, we got 7, we got 8, and then we go to 9. So that's what I'm saying is if he was a worm, and I know this is a new take on it, a new way to explain it. But again, that's where my issue comes into play, is that we come up with an idea that is too far removed from what we had seen for what, 15 years at that point, you know? So it's like that's what I have the issue with. 13 years, I should say.
Yeah.
So, okay. Um so so if you have a question for me, something that really is burning in your head, I'll answer that. I'll answer that.
What is your favorite part of Jason Goes to Hell?
Oh, that's easy. It's gotta be the Duke. It's gotta be the Duke. I think, and you kinda touched upon it a little bit, if Jason was Jason and he was killing and this and that, the film would have been fine. And I agree, and if you had a character like the Duke who had some connection to Jason as far as, he's a bounty hunter and he knows a lot about, Jason's past and all of that, that would have been fine. That would have been fun to me anyways, if we didn't have the body hopping and you just
I
had
agree.
Jason in this setting, you know, um, and you got the Duke going after him, kinda like Loomis going after Michael, right? I wouldn't have had as much issue with the film because the mythology would have still been pretty much intact as far as from what we had seen from the other 8 films, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So to me, even with all the issues that I do have with the film, I think the Duke was a fun character. It was cool having him in it. Of course, we didn't have him in it enough, and that was the second biggest sin. The biggest sin to me, and this is undeniable, is we only had and you said it. We only had Jason in the film for like 5 minutes and 13 seconds. That's all we
Yeah.
had. Bro. It's it's Kane Hodder. What are we doing? Like, and I've said this when we had our deep dive discussion on Jason Goes to Hell, which by the way, if you guys haven't seen it, it's in my Friday the 13th playlist. We definitely have had fun talking about the film. But I don't understand. Well, actually I do. Let's back up. Sean Cunningham said this to Adam, supposedly from Adam's perspective. And of course, Sean has backtracked it, over the years, saying, "Well, I didn't say, just get rid of the hockey mask." You know what I mean? But supposedly that was the thing, is to make this movie and not have the hockey mask be the central, thing. And that's the whole reason we've got the body hopping, and you don't even see Jason for 90% of the movie. But I think
Yeah.
the worst part about it, it's like you see him in reflections and okay, whatever, but you don't have Jason in the film. And when he comes back at the end, it's like he's there for like 4 minutes and he gets his ass kicked too, which
He
that
does get
doesn't
his
work.
ass kicked throughout the chapters. If you think about it, in from part 1, 2, and 3, Jason is alive. He is human. At part 3, he dies in that barn. He comes back in 4 as the revenant zombie does because of the vengeance and the love in his heart for his mother.
Yeah.
Then, Tommy Jarvis, he does kill him. Kill him.
Yes.
We know by this time that he's already gonna, come out again, but we won't
Mhm.
know that until Jason lives, when Tommy Jarvis uses the lightning. Well, the lightning just happened, but the metal rod from the gate, right?
Mhm. Yep. Yep.
So
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's just like I said, to me, there were multiple things that they made actual choices to do that I think just lessened my overall enjoyment of the film. And I've said this many times before. As a horror movie, or if you want to think of it as like a slasher slash fantasy horror film or whatever, it's fine. It's fine, and we'll get into some specifics too, and we want you guys to let us know what you think. It's fine, but as a Friday the 13th film, I just don't think it works. It
no,
just, to me, it just doesn't work. Now, I've had some people, and tell me what you think of this, cat. I've had some people say, well, what about Friday 5? Because it wasn't even Jason. I, well, I'll let you answer that first. What do you
well,
think of
okay.
that?
So in Jason, in 5, we know it's Roy Burns.
Mhm.
The lore of Jason Voorhees is there. It's there. And yeah, okay, so Jason was in his like sleep.
Mhm.
And I liked Roy Burns. I liked the fact they twisted it. It wasn't technically Jason, and that's why they made the blue chevrons on the mask.
Mhm.
But he wanted the copycat murders. He wanted to believe that it was Jason Voorhees doing it. So it was a copycat killer, and he kind of lost his shit when he seen his son hacked to pieces
Right.
in that
Right.
home, right? So
Mhm.
that I can understand. Another parent's grief turns them into a maniac, just like with Pamela Voorhees. So it kind of ties in with the first Friday the 13th, where Pamela, sorry, my cat's gonna come walking in here. She's gonna go.
That's
So it
okay.
kind of ties in with the first one where Pamela was the killer. Jason was not. Pamela did the murders. So when we have Roy Burns here, that is very similar and ties into the first one because he's a parent that just lost his child to a violent act by his peers in a place where he should have been safe, a place where
Yeah.
he should have been watched over, that his murder should not have happened. So I enjoy Roy Burns. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it still
Yeah.
ties in.
Yeah, it still does tie in because of the fact that, you just had someone else that was stepping in the shoes of Jason. Of course, we don't know that until the very end. We're kind of questioning in it the whole time because we think it could also be Tommy, and they set that
Yes,
up at the end of
they were
four.
supposed. Actually, it was supposed to be Tommy Jarvis. That is Jason, but they
Right.
got rid of that.
Yeah, they sidestepped that, which was kind of, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Real quick too in the chat, we got my good buddy Steven in the house. What's up, man? From Craving Something Scary. Hope you're doing well, man. This is definitely yeah, yeah. What's up, Trey? Trey is in the house saying, according to Adam, you see Jason in the hockey mask form the same length of time you see in some of the other movies. Mm,
I
I,
don't
I
think
well,
so.
I don't think so either. I mean, I'm
No.
just trying to think in the other films. Yeah, I don't think so.
I would have to go back to Jason Goes to Hell and count how many times we see Jason in the mirror, and compare because Jason is like the main scene in every one of the movies.
Right.
I can't see him being in there the same amount of time unless we're talking about the first half of the film.
Yeah. Yep. 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 Yep.
Still, it's still not the same amount of time in any of the Jason films where Jason is, right? Not including the part one, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and Trey, I definitely like different stuff, but I just think that like Friday 5, that was different. And a lot of people hated that. And I think it's one of the best films in the franchise. I don't mind them doing something different, but if it doesn't work, at least just in my opinion, if it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. And I think they change stuff so much. Like he's got a sister. Now there's a magical dagger. Again, none of this was talked about in 8 movies and 13 years beforehand. You
Or
know
the
what I mean?
books.
Or the That's true, man.
Not the
That's so
comic,
true.
the books. There are novels.
Right. It's true. Yep, exactly. What's up, Denisha? Good to have you here. Hope you're doing well. All right. Let's see. Trey saying Roy's motive made no sense. He kills everyone who had nothing to do with his son's death. Doesn't
I
go
have a
after Vic one
response.
time. Okay, yeah. What do you
I
got?
have a response to that. And it goes back to Pamela. Why did Pamela
Mhm.
lose her shit and murder everybody who did not kill Jason? Right?
Right.
The same thing as a parent. I could definitely see myself doing something exactly like that.
Mhm.
Because you love your child and
Right.
mental health is a huge thing. We know Pamela Voorhees was abused by Elias. Um, and we know that mental health is a really big role. And when you see your son hacked by an axe in the face and probably all sorts of kind of crazy shit, because that guy kept going with the axe
Mhm.
constantly.
Right.
You're going to tell me that your mental health at that point at that point in time is going to be sane? You
Mhm.
just seen your child's laying in pieces, probably his face all mashed up, all on the ground.
Mhm.
I think that's grounds of, snapping and having your mental health go into the shitter and decide everybody is at blame.
Yeah, there you go. Well, and that's right. He snaps. And so at that point, it's
Yeah,
on. Just
everybody to blame.
Exactly, and you made the perfect example, just like Pamela did too, and so to me, um, I can ride with that because it's like he just snapped, and so he's killing anyone associated with that area, you know?
Mhm.
So,
I'm
yeah,
gonna respond to Trey there. He says that Pamela at least killed the people responsible. No, she didn't. That happened
right,
way back in the day. She killed
right,
Alice and all of her friends that had nothing to do with
30 years
Jason's
later,
drowning.
right, yeah, 30 years later or whatever it was, 20 something
Yeah,
years later, yeah, right, yep,
because Pamela was a young woman
mhm.
as a cook working there, and her son was young. Alice didn't kill Jason, neither did her friends.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Death Central, what's up, man? Saying yo yo. Damn, that's a sweet background. What's up, man? Definitely good to have you here, no doubt. And Steven, yes, thank you so much. Guys, we're just having fun. So
Of
we're just having
course.
fun talking
Yeah.
about it. But I want to make sure that I say to you guys, Steven, thank you for doing that, helping to mod out a little bit. We're going to be respectful, guys. So just make sure that you guys do. That's how we always roll here. So for you guys that are not usually here, that may not be used to it, that's how we're going to do it, or we're going to have you guys have to leave. Okay. I just want to say that one time. All right. Um, so yeah, no, I totally agree with that because Pamela, she was on a vengeance spree for anyone. It wasn't people that were specifically linked to the death of, quote unquote, the death of Jason. So let's just put that out there too. Um, all right, so let me just finish up here in the chat. Um, yeah, Amity saying Roy snapped, but it's premeditated. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, Elm Street's in the house. What's up, Elm Street? Good to see you. Hope that you're doing well, man. Good to have you here. Good to have you here. We're having some fun with this. Okay, so let's go to the next thing. We're gonna have you guys in the chat that are acting pretty much like the jury here in this setup that we've got here, and have you guys throw out your comments, just a one, sentence or two comment about what you think of Jason Goes to Hell. And it could be anything. Just let us know your thought on this film, whether you're pro Jason Goes to Hell or if you're anti Jason Goes to Hell. And we'll get to a couple of the comments, and we'll also try to read or answer any questions. Respectful, though, guys. Make sure we do that. And I'm also going to put a poll in the chat, and we're going to have you guys vote. This is also how we're going to figure this whole thing out about Jason Goes to Hell. So I'm going to put the poll in the chat too. Let's see. Let's see. Is Jason Goes to Hell?
When you have a psychotic break, sometimes you don't come out of that, Trey. A psychotic break can happen, and it did happen with Pamela. And anytime that anyone
Right.
came up onto that land, onto Camp Crystal Lake, it brought that trauma back. Trauma comes back when something is triggered. Having these young counselors come back to Camp Crystal Lake triggered her trauma.
Mm-hmm. It did. I absolutely agree with that. I absolutely agree.
I love Jason
Okay.
X. It's one of my favorites.
I do too. Now let me, while we have these guys send in their comments just in general, if why they're pro or anti Jason Goes to Hell. How about we address that too? Because I've had some folks when I've talked about Jason Goes to Hell before say, well, what about Jason X? Because you like Jason X. Now, here's my question to you. Jason X has some different things going on too.
It does.
Why is it okay to like Jason X and not Jason
Okay,
Goes to
so
Hell?
plain and simple, you kept the lore of Jason. You kept the lore
Mm-hmm.
of Camp Crystal Lake. He lands in Earth 2, which leaves an opening to a sequel to Jason X, where he is able to murderize everybody yet again at
Mm-hmm.
a lake.
Mm-hmm.
Jason X stayed with storyline. When they're
Mhm.
talking about this Jason Voorhees, they bring up his past, which is connected to the other chapters, and
Right.
it stays with that same thread as with Roy Burns with part 1 of Pamela.
Mhm. Mhm.
They didn't deviate. Yeah, they did some really cool things. Yeah, there was some cheesy stuff in there, but they didn't deviate from Jason. Yes, they made Jason into this big nanobite, crazy juggernaut of death with a really cool mask. Um,
Right.
but they didn't change him into a worm that's hopping bodies. They didn't even turn him into an asteroid where if you breathe it in the asteroid dust, it turns you into Jason Voorhees. They
Right.
kept with the story. They kept with the same similarity as the rest of the chapters.
Yeah,
Todd Farmer was
absolutely.
brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I agree with you. That's really the big part of the answer there is that it still followed, what we had seen before, and they even, referenced the past. He killed,
Yes.
however many people they said he killed, at Crystal Lake, blah blah blah. And now we've got him, and we're basically, trying to put him on ice so that he can't kill anymore. He can regenerate and blah blah blah. So it was a way for them to do a movie in the future, and obviously we know he's in space and all that, but it was a way to do it where it was still connected to the other films in a way where you say, okay, I see where they went with that. He was no longer a worm because again, when he got blown to hell by KM, there was no there was no worm that jumped out of him. So they let go of that part of the story because again, it just doesn't, to me, it
His
just
heart,
doesn't
yeah.
work. Like you said, if Jason Goes to Hell was kind of like a standalone, like kind of outside, and some people may just look at it like that, and that's fine,
Yeah,
you
they
know.
could.
But the way I look at it is the fact that no, this is kind of like following off the events of the other films. Just like if you think about Rob Zombie's Halloween, it's a
Yep.
different timeline, it's a different Michael
Di
Myers, it's a different
different
Laurie.
universe, just like with the new
Right.
3 chapters that I dislike. It's a new universe.
Right, right. So that's the big thing for me.
But they were separate standalones, right? They're not considered part of the Halloween chapters, and I think that's what makes a big difference here is that, Rob Zombie's Halloween isn't in the chapters of Carpenter Halloween and the rest of the chapters
Right.
there. Same thing with this new Jason universe, Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, yada yada.
Mhm,
Not a big fan. But that
mhm.
there, it's its own universe. I don't consider that to be in the same chapters.
Right. It's its own take on what would happen if we go 40 years later and Michael's an old man. Exactly. Yeah. We got Mac in the house too. I just wanted to say hey to Mac. What's going on, man? Saying Jason Goes to Hell absolutely rocks. You know what's going on, bro.
I'd love
That
to know what makes it rock. Like, tell me,
Yeah,
change my mind. Tell
right.
me what makes Jason Go to Hell rock.
Yeah, well, we got some folks that definitely got some thoughts on it. Dominic saying it's cheesy, but still good. All right. Okay. Let's see. And Dominic saying, honestly, it's cool. I haven't seen it in a while. Either way, I'd say I like it. Okay. Death Central saying, I can respect this movie for what it is, but personally, as a kid, I was so frustrated that we just saw Jason 10 minutes at the beginning and at the end. There you go. There you go. Again, that to me, like, even if we do the hidden thing and all of that, okay, fine. But we needed more Jason. We just needed more Jason.
I would
Let's
agree.
see. Yeah, no lip gloss saying, I always assumed that his mom killed to cause the camp to close and to keep it closed. Yeah, well,
She
she
did.
definitely didn't want it. Yeah, she definitely didn't want it to be opened up anymore. Yep,
Yeah.
yep,
She
no
didn't
doubt.
want people there. It just opened up that wound, that trauma.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Trey saying Cam didn't really blow him. Well, no, not I don't I was saying that figuratively. She shot him full of holes and shot his leg off and his head half off. Yeah, he wasn't totally blown up. Yeah.
But the
Let's
imagery of
see.
him being totally blown looking like he was totally blown up really looked cool, though. That one shot
It
where you
did.
you just see him go when things go
Yeah,
flying, and I thought that was cool. But,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, it was some cool stuff. Yeah. Let's see. Russell saying, I love bad films. There you go. Yeah. Um, and Zed saying, just remember, it's not Halloween 3. It has Voorhees in it. That's it. He
Hey,
hates
but
Halloween
Halloween 3
3.
was
It's
great.
true. It's it's true though. At least Jason was in it. And Kane Hodder.
True, and Kane Hodder was in Jason Goes to Hell as a security guard, but with
Yeah.
Halloween 3, Carpenter wanted to do something a little different. That's what he wanted Halloween franchise to be, was an anthology of Halloween, not the boogeyman. Not
Yeah.
what we got.
Right. And here's the other thing too that's really interesting. Carpenter's plan, and that's the way it was shot, is that Michael died at the end of 2 and
Yes.
Loomis. He wanted it to be done.
Yep.
That hospital,
Mhm.
2/3 of that hospital blew up. Michael's on fire. He falls down. He dies. That was the plan from the creator of the franchise
Yep.
himself, that they
I
were
remember him
dead.
saying that.
And now 3 is something brand new. We're gonna do something new. Now, it didn't work out, because the fans want, and I was like that too as a kid. I wanted Michael too as a kid. I wasn't a big fan of
Oh,
I hated
I
Season
liked
of the
it
Witch
when I
as a
seen
kid.
it. I seen it
I
as a kid.
hated it.
I liked it. We rented it. I liked Halloween 3, even though it didn't have
Mhm.
Michael. And back then we didn't have Google, right? So
Right.
Google wasn't the thing. We couldn't just go and say, hey, is Michael Myers in this? But once it started going, it was all about Halloween, the holiday
Right.
itself. And I thought
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Now see, you're a lot more um mature than I was, because as a kid, I was just like, "What? What's going on?" Because I didn't understand it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know what was going on, and I expected to see Michael, and I didn't. Now, as I got older, and this was years later, and I understood, like, Michael's not in this movie. This was supposed to be something different. This was going to be an anthology type of situation where every year,
Oh,
or
yeah.
close to every year, they would release a film on Halloween and tap into the ideas behind Halloween time. And then I was able to enjoy it, and now it's like, yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. So,
Yeah.
um, let's see. Dwight saying what happened to horror movies by the time Jason Goes to Hell came out is that they were so bad. It was a rough time in horror around that time, 1993. I
The
agree.
90s had some good horror. I mean, besides the I Know What You Did Last Summer
Yeah,
crap.
yeah. Well, Scream kind of reinvigorated everything in 96 when, Wes Craven kind of
Yeah.
came back, and,
I mean,
you know,
92, we had Candyman. We
Candy.
also and what, we also had, The Craft.
Yep, The Craft, Silence of the
95?
Lambs.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we had some really good movies. I mean, every
Mhm.
era has their downsides. Even the '80s had their downsides in
Oh,
horror.
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Stephen, thank you so much putting the link in for Reanimate Her's channel. Make sure you guys subscribe. And I've also got the link in the description. So make sure that we go and support her. She's an amazing content creator. And I'm, again, just so happy that she was able to come back here and hang out. Um, and Russell saying, I just subbed. Well, thank you so much, Russell. We appreciate that. We appreciate that. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. She Kratos saying early 2000s, I had some wretched horror though. Had some wretched horror though. Yeah, it did have some bad stuff. Had some good stuff too. Yeah, had some good stuff too.
Mhm.
It kind of goes back and forth. And then, like you said, same thing with the 80s. Both sides had some ups and downs. Okay, so real quick too, in the chat, now we've had the poll up, and we've got, this is close, guys. We've got 33 votes. Wow, 33 votes. Very, very cool. If you haven't voted, please do. The question was, is Jason Goes to Hell a good film? And we've got yes for the innocent, and we've got no for the guilty. And right now, Kat, we're at 52% for yes
Yep.
and 48 or no. And now
Well,
we're at 50-50. Someone else just voted. We're at
I
50-50. This is crazy.
I will say that art is subjective. Horror movies, all
Oh, yeah.
movies is art, and art is subjective. You like what you like. You should, I mean, there's
That's
no
true.
ill will towards people who love this chapter. I think it's blah.
Oh, yeah.
But, for if you enjoy this chapter, that's great. You don't have to, be ashamed or
Oh,
be a
yeah.
douche about it, right?
Right, right, right. No, and like I said, we've done this, conversations about divisive films many, many times. And this is the way I look at it. If people enjoy a film, that is awesome, because I love movies and I think more people should love movies. So for
100%.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because since I was a little kid, since I was 7 years old, I've been a huge horror fan. And if people love a horror film, I'm always excited about that because it's like, man, I know what you mean. I know what that's like because I love horror movies too. Now, that's not to say that we're always going to agree on said horror movies because sometimes some things
Yeah.
work for some people and sometimes they don't. And it's okay. It's okay because if we all thought the same way, it would be a pretty boring place and it wouldn't be fun having a
Oh, yeah.
conversation. And like I said, one of my best buds on YouTube, he literally said, and we had a live stream for it, he literally said his favorite horror movie of the 90s, the whole decade, was Jason Goes to Hell. So, and that's fine because we have fun with it. He knows I'm not a big fan. He's one of the biggest fans, but that's absolutely fine. We can have conversations and so forth. So,
Of
anyways,
course.
yeah, big time. Steven reminding us we're 43 likes. Don't forget to smash the thumbs up button. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you, Steven. Steven stepping up, doing mod stuff. That's all right, man. That's all right. She Kratos saying, "If you love horror, no ill will." Exactly, exactly. There's no doubt. No doubt at all. Just like for some people, you know, the question is, what's scary, to you, or what's creepy? Some people might find certain films to be creepy, and some people may say, that's not creepy or scary at all to me. And that's fine.
Yeah.
It's like it's a conversation to be had. Um, so let's do this. Now, this is what we're gonna do. The poll is still up. Um, Dwight saying I accidentally pressed yes. Yeah, that's
We're
too
at
funny.
50-50 right now.
Yeah, yeah. It is
Dwight.
at 50-50?
Yeah, it's at 50-50.
Oh, man. All right. Okay. Well, look, keep voting, guys. Keep voting. I'm gonna keep a check on it. It does look like we've got 36 votes. 30. We're at 51% for guilty and 49
It,
for
it, it keeps
wow.
popping back and forth. It keeps going from 50-50 to 51-49 back to
This is
50-50.
This is absolutely crazy. I'm checking it out live on my phone right now. Again, you guys are gonna help vote for this and make this work. So let's do this. We're gonna go to our last part of this. This is basically how we're gonna score certain key components of the film. Okay, and we're gonna start off with and again, this is just for me and Kat, you guys in the chat, let us know what you think too. We got a point system of 1 to 5. 1 being the lowest, 5 being the top. So it's either a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Okay, so the first category is going to be this.
That's
Oh,
a badass Jason right there.
right? For
Damn.
3 minutes, maybe. So Kat, if you're going to give it a score 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 1 being horrible, and 5 being best, okay, what would you give story for a score and why?
The story? 1.
Yep.
Because you literally made things pull out of your ass, like a sister, the Necronomicon,
Hmm.
things that did not exist in any of the other chapters. I think the story, yeah, sucked.
Okay. All right. For me, for story, I'm gonna go with a 2. I'm gonna go with a 2. And the reason is because I think they tried to do something different, and I appreciate that. I just think that the way they executed it just didn't work. It just didn't work. So I'm gonna go with a 2. And part of that, as far as story, is some of the things in the film can be enjoyable, but we'll
Yeah.
get to that. We'll get to that as time goes on. For you guys in the chat, let us know what you would give for a score for the story alone, just story alone. Ru- and Russell, we can't give a 0. 1 to
I
5,
like the way
'cause
Russell thinks.
but yeah, because I'm going to count this up at the end. Mayan's in the chat. Thank you so much, Mayan, for being here. We appreciate that. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. Let's see. She Kratos saying, I'll give it a 3. Okay. All right. We got Val in the house. Thank you for being here, Val. We appreciate that. Good to have you. And Val, let us know what you think of Jason Goes to Hell. We're scoring this by a couple of different categories, 1 to 5, and we're talking about story. Okay, so we've got the story down. Kat gave it a 1. I gave it a 2. Okay, next category. Let's see. Okay, characters in this film, specifically in this film, the characters. What would you give it 1 to 5?
I'm gonna have to give it a 4. We had some really great actors in there. The Duke, well, I mean, look at him. He was a great character. I liked, I love the fact that they had Kane Hodder in there as, a security guard.
Yes, that's true.
Right?
I,
He was
did.
in there.
I did smile when I saw him there. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. For me, I think I will give it. This is interesting. I'm gonna give it a 3. And the reason I'm going to give it a 3 was I loved the Duke in it, right? I really did. And I think John D. LeMay is really fun in it as well. Because I actually, here's another deep cut. I was actually a fan of Friday the 13th, the series,
Yes.
and of course he starred in it. So when I saw him, I was like, now, of course, he's not the same character. We know that, but I'm just saying, but he was really fun in this. I really enjoyed, I just enjoyed him in it.
Yeah.
But there wasn't anyone else that I really latched on to. Even the final girl, what's her name? Jessica?
Yeah.
She was okay, but
I'm not into
listen,
final people. I think they all should die.
there you go. But to me, it's like she just didn't really pop for me either. So that's why I'm going to go with a 3. I think that it was fine, but the Duke was the best thing easily, no doubt
Yeah.
about it.
The
Okay.
Duke was. I think he was the best character in the entire film.
Yeah.
I really love the comedy between Pookie and his wife.
They
I
were
can't,
fun. Yeah.
and that's why I gave it a 4 because
Mhm.
a lot of the characters, they were likable
Yeah.
and they were enjoyable.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. All right. Our next category, our third of 4 categories is. All right. The kills. The kills in the film. What would you give that 1 to 5?
I'm gonna have to give that a 4 as well. I found the kills, as in all Jason films, are always fun and over the top. That whole elbow to the woman in the restaurant, and you know what I mean, and her whole
Yeah.
mouth goes in. Like, come on, that's pretty. I
Yeah.
mean, how the hell was your elbow that strong? But it's Jason Voorhees. Well, technically Jason. I thought that was a really cool kill. I
Mhm.
thought they had some really good kills in it.
Okay. All right.
Saving grace for it.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely a saving grace. I would also say that I would give it, I'd give it a, this is tough. This is actually pretty challenging. I would, and I love the practical work that they did
Oh
too.
yeah.
That was some good stuff too. So I think I'll agree. I'll give it a 4. I think I'll give it a 4, just like you. Okay, all right. And real quick too in the chat, we got Mike in the house saying, I for one thing, Jason Goes to Hell is a thumbs up movie. Okay. Many of the complaints are trivial. It's completely in the re- realm of possibilities that Jason had a living extended family. I can agree with that. They can make that work. When you got a dagger that's coming out of thin air and the Necronomicon. That's when that I don't know if you were here earlier, Mike, but that's my biggest issue is that they changed it into this big fantasy thing where again, that was never a part of the story before. Now, if they said he had a sister and she's got a daughter and now he's got to fight them
It's
and
Halloween.
they well, it is Halloween, but I could deal with that. But if once they got into this whole thing that it's a curse and he's a worm and all that, it's like I said again, that when Tommy brought him back at the end of Jason, or at the beginning, I should say, of Jason Lives, that's how he came back. He wasn't like this worm thing. You know what I mean? So that's the issue I have. Not so much the extended family, but kind of like the things that kind of were surrounding that. But you're the only one, if you hold this dagger that can kill a Voorhees. The only way to kill a Voorhees is for a Voorhees to kill a Voorhees. It's like, what? What is
Yeah.
what is going on? You know? All right. Okay. Let's go to our fourth and final category. This is the last one. Okay. Overall, Kat, when you look at this film, overall, all the ups and downs of it, 1 to 5, what's the score you want to give it?
I will give it a 2.
Okay.
I
Okay.
give it a 2 because it's still the Jason kills. Jason looked pretty friggin' amazing. Some of the saving grace here. Jason looked pretty friggin' awesome, I thought, in the beginning of the film.
Mm-hmm.
The Duke really helped with the story. However, I would have liked to see more with Duke. There could have been a couple of things left out. The
Mm-hmm.
kills were pretty awesome. I really liked how creative they were with some of the kills.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The acting was good, so that's why I would give it a 2 and not a
Okay.
1.
All right. Very cool. She Kratos saying, but the real question is Dream Warriors Freddy Worm versus Hell's Jason Worms. There you go. That might be a
Freddy
good
would
one.
win. Freddy's worm would win. That's way bigger. Do you see the size of Jason's worm?
That's the way that they should have gone with the big matchup, Freddy versus Jason,
Right.
Worms versus Worm. Pumpkin in the house. What's up? Where he's actually sends Jason to hell. Other people just kill him temporarily. Okay, all right. Mike saying fair enough, Night Watch. Some things and Jason Goes to Hell goes too far. I can agree with you on that. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Is I just think that they really changed the DNA of what the franchise was. You know what I mean? Russell saying overall a 1. Okay. All right. Um there you go. You guys are too funny. All right. So for me overall, you went with a 2. I'm also going to go with a 2. I think that there were moments. There were moments, like I said, the kills had some good moments. The practical work specifically, when that guy basically disintegrates, that was some awesome stuff. The Duke was awesome. I did enjoy seeing John D. LeMay in the movie. He had some fun moments. I wish we got even more of him, to be honest with you, and more of the
Yeah.
Duke.
Yeah.
But again, I just think that they did some really wacky stuff. So I have to go with a 2 on that. Okay. You guys keep letting us know in the chat. We're at 44 votes, guys. This is awesome. We've got, oh wow, it's changed a little bit here. So we've got no at 57%. All right. All right. Keep voting. If you guys are jumping in, also make sure to hit the like button. We'd appreciate that as we start to close in to find out which way we're going with this film. As we start to wrap up here, Kat, let us know any final thoughts you have with Jason Goes to Hell. You can also let these folks know anything that's going on with you over on your channel and stuff too.
Sure. Well, first, thank you for having me. I always enjoy coming onto your show and chilling and chatting horror. Um,
Much appreciated.
Jason, Emperor, I have to agree with Emperor because we didn't bring this up. How did Jason learn how to shave? What was all that romantic kind of, sensual shaving the guy with a couple little cuts here and there? Like, what the
Right.
fuck was that? Like, what was
Right.
that? Um,
Right.
even when I first saw it, I was like, "WTF? Like, what is going on here?"
Yeah.
It is an uncomfortable scene on as well. It's just a weird scene that I don't think needed to be in. And why is he shaving?
Yeah. Yeah,
Why?
exactly. I know, right? Who knows? I mean, I think Adam Marcus, I think, and I've heard him talk about it, he just wanted to have some interesting little uh oddities in the film and so forth, which
Oddities is the word.
which is fine. But yeah, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. All right.
Yeah.
And Elm Street, thanks for being here, man. We appreciate you being here. Empress and naked, no less. Like, why? I I know. I know, man. Let's do this. Let's do another clip for the fun of it. You guys have been really good sports and we've had some really good interaction. Again, we're closing this down. We're going to give the final verdict in a second. But let's just do another clip. And again, this is one of those clips. It's one of our newest clips. It's become kind of like a fan favorite. When you have someone that's really just getting on your nerves, there's only one way that you can deal with it, and there's one legendary actor from back in the day that knows how to do it, and here it is.
Here. We're fine. It is not in the file. It is not. You son of a bitch!
There it is. The late great George C. Scott. Um, so for you guys, let us know any final thoughts on Jason Goes to Hell as we wind this down. So again, for story, the average that we got between the two of us is a 1.5, a 1.5 out of a possible 5. For the kills, we got a score of 4. For the characters themselves, we got an average of 3.5. And for the overall of the franchise, we had a 2. Now we're gonna look at the chat, and we still got some votes coming in. We're gonna get ready to call this, guys. So if you have not voted, now is the time to do it. Now is the time to do it. I'm gonna give you guys one more minute. We got 47 coming in. We had a few more right there. Um, I'm just going to be curious to see what this ends up being, because it started off as yes.
It did.
It really did. So I'm curious to see where this is going to go. We'll give you guys like another 30 seconds, and then we are going to call it. We are going to call it. Okay. All right. Now, um, in the chat, Grumpy, what's going on? Grumpy saying Jason Goes to Hell. One of the many examples of what happens when you try to wrap a plot around a slasher and you pull your punches on the kills. Well said. Well said. I agree. I absolutely agree. I mean, they did some good stuff, but hey, you know. All right. She Kratos is saying, worm your votes in. Absolutely. Okay. We're gonna close the poll. And it looks like 48 votes, a lot of votes, which is really cool to see. 48 votes. We've got
Nice.
56% to 44 that is saying that for today, right now, anyways, Jason Goes to Hell from 1993, and we've had a lot of fun. Is it innocent or is it guilty? This is the verdict. There it is. It is guilty. Do you hear all the grunts? That's out of
Yeah.
Marcus going.
Yeah.
When has Jason done that? What are we
Jason
doing?
does make some slight noises in the chapters, but nothing like that.
Right.
Nothing like that.
I know.
I'm like, who the fuck is making these grunts?
It's the director. Oh my God. L. Buckner saying, I can't believe it. It was so close, but I did like Burned Hell Jason. Yeah, I think now let me just say this as we're closing out. I wasn't a huge fan of the design, but I think it was cool in its own way. I think Kane's performance in the 8 minutes he was on screen was great. I love Kane. He's great in the role. He was very formidable looking. I wasn't a big fan of it, but I appreciated the practical work and all of that. You know what I'm saying? She Kratos said the grunts giving me Pee-wee in the Buffy movie. This has been great, man. Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, guys. So there we have it. It's guilty. It's freaking guilty. We went through it step by step. You guys voted. I gotta admit, it was close for a while there in the beginning.
was.
I was like, wow, that is very, very interesting. But yeah, it is guilty. That doesn't mean that you can't enjoy it. And I'm gonna be honest and say this right now. And it doesn't mean at some point down the road that I might like it more or I might hate it more. Who
Yep.
knows? Things change as time goes on. I've had that happen,
Taste
like I said.
changes, things happen, right? Who knows? Maybe 10 years down the road that I would
Maybe
like it, but I fucking doubt it. I couldn't even say it with a straight face. I was trying.
you tried. I got to give you credit. Well, let me just say this for you guys in the chat. Thanks for hanging out with us. We really appreciate this. Um, you guys, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you guys head on over to Reanimate Her's channel and subscribe. We've had the link in the chat multiple times. We've got it in the description. So make sure you guys do that. We'd appreciate that. And Kat, I'll have you hold on for just a quick minute as I put on the outro, and then
Sure.
we'll see each other backstage for a quick second before I let you go. But this was fun. This was a lot of fun.
It's
We hope
always
you
fun.
guys, yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed it. Maybe we'll do some more of these types of setups with the breakdown on the film and getting you guys to be the voters and so forth. I really enjoy that and all of the interaction. So, anyways, we will catch you guys later. Take it easy. And as always, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch. Peace.